This is the first video tutorial for ARC 220 commercial documentation and detailing. It's going to cover the first drawing assignment of Module 1. I'm going to quickly go over the instructions and introduce the project, and then we're going to jump right into modeling. So this first assignment, we're going to model a small commercial building which is to become a Del Frisco's steakhouse. The drawings that you will create will represent an abbreviated construction set for the core and shell of the building, meaning that we're not going to be doing any interior. This is basically the exterior of the building and a few core interior elements like mechanical closets, vertical circulation, that sort of thing. The ground floor plan, second floor plan, roof plan, all of the elevations, and a few orthographic drawings or perspectives really will be produced. For these plans to be complete, you must model the exterior walls, floors, roofs, and interior walls. Basically everything in the final deliverable. I'm not going to go over all of these deliverables. You can see them in the instructions, as well as I'm not going to go over the assignment objectives, but these are important to read when you're going through the instructions so that you know what skills you should be learning. The most important part about the instructions is here in the details. The details are going to tell you very specific parameters or properties of the building elements, as well as other additional information that you should be aware of. In this assignment, the details include all of our wall types, which include all of their type parameters. So for all of the exterior walls, they're called out basically by their location so that you can figure out where they are and what their properties are supposed to be. We also have a section here that show you the heights of all of our levels that need to be placed. And there's some diagrams like this one for the exterior walls here that show the instance properties of all of these particular walls. So the instance properties, what you need to be paying attention to in particular here is the bottom of the wall and the top of the wall, so that you know where to locate the top and bottoms of these walls, obviously, to create this massing of this building. Here's another diagram for the interior instance parameters for those walls. There's also the type parameters, and again, other applicable information for the floor slabs as well as the roof slabs. So here's some more roof information. And finally, there's some detailed plan drawings with detailed dimensions on these three things that I'm calling the fin walls. These are aesthetic decorative elements to this building design. And that's a quick review of the instructions. Again, always read and understand all of the instructions so that you know everything that's included in this assignment. In future videos, I will not be going over all of the instructions, so be sure to do that for future assignments on your own. I'm going to quickly review the final deliverable. Again, your drawings should look as close as they can to my final deliverable as you can. If you can get your final deliverable looking extremely close to mine, you will get a good grade. We are essentially recreating this set of drawings, and as I've mentioned before in class, it's very important that you take some time, go through these drawings and look at them and understand what all the parts and pieces are. So I'm just going to very quickly go through this right now. What we have here is a roughly rectangular building with a few jogs in the exterior walls. We've got a couple interior spaces. You'll find out later that this is the elevator shaft, elevator machine room, and two mechanical closets. One's for fire, one's for electrical. We've got these three fin walls that I pointed out that become aesthetic elements. And we've got all the dimensions to place all of these things on the first floor plan here. We've got our second floor plan here. You can see that there's a double height space. There's no floor in this area. Again, the elevator shaft coming up. We have another jog in our building that gives us an outdoor patio space for outdoor dining in this restaurant. Again, our three fin walls, and you'll see that the fin walls up here kind of change shape. On the roof plan, you can see again that the fin walls kind of extend backwards here, and we have sort of actually I guess you could say 4 levels of roof. We have the patio, we have a roof over the patio. This higher mass, which you'll see in elevation, is higher than this mass here. So we kind of have the main roof. This becomes a mechanical well to put our rooftop mechanical units so that they're hidden from view. The elevations are very straightforward. Again, at this stage we are just modeling the exterior and interior walls of the building as well as the roofs and floors so that we have the main mass of the building. So there's not much detail to these. You'll see the elevations, or sorry, the levels that we need to have in here. There's actually more levels in here, and we hide some of those for these elevation views. So you really have to zoom in if you want to see any of this, because the brick tends to blow all the lines out. So just going through all the elevations here, skipping ahead to the perspectives because these start to give you an overall view. So here's that lower patio, here's the main roof, the 3 fin walls, and the upper mechanical well. And then here's looking in the opposite direction. Again, you can see how this roof over the patio interacts with the fin wall here, and that's the review of the final deliverables. Again, in future videos, I will not be doing such a thorough review of the final deliverables. I'm probably just going to jump right into the assignments. So be sure to do that before each assignment on your own. So jumping right into Revit, at the time of this video recording, I'm using Revit 2023. Just some quick review. We're going to start with the template and we're going to start drawing the walls first. We need a new template. I should say we need a new model based on a template. So we're going to say new. Again, we are an architectural course, Arch 220, so we are using an architectural template. We are always drawing our buildings from the view of an architect. And it's a new project, not a new template. So we want the project, hit OK. It's going to dump us into our default Revit template. Because this is, again, the first video for this course, I'm also just going to quickly review a couple things about the Revit interface, and particularly my Revit interface, and how I suggest that you set yours up. I always take my properties bar or my properties palette. Yours will be over here, I think at the top, and I drag that over. You just click on properties and drag it off the right side of your screen, and it should dock to the right side because I like to have this open at all times and as big as I can get it. It allows my project browser to expand to the whole left side, and again, as I add views and things, I can see them all at a glance. I also always like to show my quick access toolbar below the ribbon. Right now it says above because it is below, and it would put it back up. Those are the two things that I like to do. You'll also notice that my background is gray. Just disregard that. I changed my background to be a little darker so it's a little easier on my eyes than the bright white. So as I mentioned, we are going to start with the walls as we always do when we're drawing a building. I'm not going to review the specifics of my Revit creation method, but I will be using it, so I'm going to kind of be going through those steps as I create these walls. I will also emphasize my methods of creating things in Revit, which is typically don't worry too much about being exact when you're placing them in the model. You can always come back after you've placed them and adjust them using the tools within Revit, dimensions, using the align tools to get them in place. It's usually, I find it much easier to just get them in the drawing first and adjust them later. That's sort of the power of Revit. We can revise instantly all of these things after the fact. So I'm going to jump into the details of my instructions, and I know that all of my exterior walls are brick on metal stud. So I'm going to not pay attention to the type parameters at this point. I'm just going to find brick on metal stud. We will be editing the default parameters of brick on metal stud. So I know what I want to create. I want to create a wall. I'm going to click the wall button, and the first thing that I'm going to do is check my type. In my type selector, right now it defaults to generic 8-inch. I'm going to come up and find exterior, and really I should be using the search bar more often. So if I just type EXT, and right there we have brick on metal stud. Do not choose brick and CMU on metal stud. We just want this one. This type is going to get us closest to the assembly that we need, and we're probably just going to have to adjust a few things in here when we actually do edit the type. We're not going to bother with that right now. Again, to sort of emphasize that we can do a lot of design and drawing of a building without knowing every little thing about it, because we can always come back later and adjust those things, and our model will not be negatively impacted. We've got our type. Now we're going to come down to our instance parameters and check those out, mainly our constraints. As always, I want to pay attention to my location line, the default center line. These are exterior walls, and my dimensions are to the exterior, so I'm going to use finish face exterior. My base constraint is level 1. I want the bottom of my wall to be at the bottom of level 1. Now the base offset, if you look into the instance parameter, oops, I skipped it. There's the instance parameters of these walls. Any of these walls that go down to the ground, and not all of these do, you'll notice, for instance, this red wall here that sort of is our main mass. You'll notice that the base offset's -8. So pay close attention to those instance parameters when I give them to you. So we're just going to dump in -8 inches. And the top, right now, again, like many of my buildings, I'm just going to get it up to level 2. I'm going to worry about the top constraints later. We're just going to go with no top offset. We just want to get these walls in here. So we've done that step. Now we're going to come up to options. This looks good to go. I just like to double check it. We're doing the height, level 2, finish face exterior. We're going to do a chain because we're just going to keep drawing. We're going to check our draw tools, and yes, we want to be drawing a line. The line again is going to be the exterior finish face. I'm going to start somewhere in the middle of my elevation markers and click. And again, I'm not paying that much attention to the actual dimensions here. I'm just drawing the overall shape of this building. So there's sort of those two jogs on that wall. We're going to come back. Okay. So there's my overall shape of the building. Finally, the last step of my Revit creation method, which I've kind of been going over as I do this, is to check this out in a 3D view. The easiest way to do that's with the default 3D view, if you remember that. And we can see clearly here that this is what we expected. Our walls go up to the second level, and that's the shape. And even if we zoom in, we can see, hey, there's brick on the outside. Again, because we drew this in a clockwise fashion. If we drew it counterclockwise, our walls would be inside out. So I'm just going to go ahead and hide these in this view. I don't want to see these. So I'm going to do these by category. That's my levels. I don't like to look at my levels in my 3D view. Go back to my level 1. Now I can start driving the location of these walls with my dimensions. I'm going to place my dimensions and edit some of this. I'm not going to do all of it on screen in the video. I'll come back once I get them all adjusted. But as a review again, because this is the first video, the dimension button is here in the quick access toolbar. This is one I like to use. Check your type. For dimensions, we can always just use the default. There are no instance properties. Check our options bar here, and we see that the dimensions are going to go to the center line. This is why it's important to do this step by step. Check your options bar. We're going to go to wall faces. We're going to use the aligned method. And as I always like to do it, or think about this, I want to place a dimension for up here, this length here. And I'm going to jump back to my final deliverable. So this 24'8" dimension. Now this dimension, when you think about it in Revit, it is not the length of this wall that you're dimensioning. You're dimensioning where the face of this wall and the face of this wall are. When I place that dimension in Revit, I'm going to stay away from this wall and the corners, because you see that it's hard to figure out where it is. I'm going to come down to this wall. It highlights blue. I'm going to click on it, come over here to this wall, and again, I'm going to keep going. I'm not going to place a single dimension. I'm going to place a dimension string so that they're all connected, so that later on when I have to move this thing around, I only have to move one instead of two. Place the dimension. I've got this overall dimension over here. Now again, I'm doing this based upon memory. You should be looking at the final deliverable to place your dimensions. Okay, so we've got those in there. Again, thinking about how to adjust these now, I always like to set an anchor point in my upper left-hand corner where I started. So I'm saying that this wall and this wall do not move. So if I want this dimension here to be 24'8", I can't move this wall because I've just said it's an anchor. So I'm going to select this wall. It activates this dimension, and I can type 24'8". Enter. And then my following dimension is 47. So again, I select the next vertical wall. It activates this, click inside of it, type 47 feet, and that's there. I can come down. My overall 75'8", so I can select this wall, 75'8". These dimensions aren't going to be accurate right away, or at least I should say this one here, these two here, because the fin wall is going to change some of that. So for now, I'm only going to get this dimension here, which is, I believe, 4 feet. But again, check your final deliverable. I'm doing all this from memory. That's 59'4", so I can do this. And again, I always just like to look at this and say, okay, that looks like roughly what I want. So we need to start thinking about the tops and bottoms. Well, we've got the bottoms of these walls correct. We want to start thinking about the tops. To do that, we're going to have to add some levels. So that's what we're going to do next. To add levels, we always go to an elevation view. And you can see that we have level 1 and level 2. So we are going to check our instructions, find our levels. So I want to add all of these. And because I've given you these, this is easy enough to just throw these in. Now, as you're actually designing a project, you're not going to know what all these are at the get-go. Again, it really just depends upon the building and the design and what you're doing. So I'm just going to start throwing these in. So I need, let's see, we've got 2 floors. So we've got first floor and second floor. So I can actually go in here. So the first thing I like to do is just rename these. So I'm going to change this to first floor. When it asks me to rename corresponding views, I'm going to say yes right now because I'm going to call that first floor plan in the view, and that does a little bit of work for me. So level 2, I'm going to rename this. Oops. Second floor. Another tip here that I'm going to point out that isn't quite clear just from the instructions is that some of these floors are going to want a view associated with it and some do not. So what I'm going to point out here is that my first floor, obviously that's already got a view. My second floor, that's got a view, and those are going to be my first and second floor plans. The roof is going to get its own view, but all the rest of these top of concretes, top of parapet, top of fin framing, these are just going to be levels that have no views. These are just sort of, they're top ofs. They're things that we want to reference, but we don't need a view of them. Typically because they're relatively close to our other views. So again, you're not going to know that right away in your design, but it's going to come with experience. So to make another view, to make another level with a view, we are going, the fastest way to do that is use the level button. So that's up here. So level, we're going to check our type, 1/4 inch head. That's exactly what this is. So we're fine with that. The constraints and all the instance properties look good. We're going to make a plan view. So yes, we want to make a plan view, and we're going to draw a line. And I always like to align these. And again, I'm not paying attention to exact level. Just going to throw that in there. And you can see that we now have a level 3 view. I'm going to call this roof. Yeah, I'll rename this. I'm not even going to ask to have this. Actually, I am going to have this come up because eventually I'm going to say no, don't do this. So actually, let's do that. No, I can always change that here. So now I can come over, rename, first floor plan. Do not show me this again. Rename, so on and so forth. I won't go through all that right now. The fastest way to create a level that doesn't have a view associated with it is to just copy an existing one. So I know that these are all in order, so I need a top of concrete patio between the first and second floor, and then all of these 3 top ofs are above the roof. So I can quickly say, okay, I'm going to select that, hold control, click and drag this down. That didn't seem to work for some reason. There we go. And then I need 3 above this. So 1, 2, 3. And then you can come in, rename these appropriately, and get their heights correct. I'm not going to do that on video because you know how to do that. Okay, so I've got all of my levels and their heights in here from the instructions. You'll notice in the final deliverable, I don't actually show the levels that don't have a view created. So I'm just going to jump right in here and grab all those. So that's the top of concrete patio, top of parapet framing, high and low, and top of fin framing. So I'm just holding control. You can select multiple things. Right click, hide in view, elements, because I don't want to turn off all levels. I just want to turn off those. So this is going to make this next step easier. This is a little tip I try to tell students is if I adjust these over here to be closer to the building so that it looks nicer, it's adjusting the text on the opposite elevation. So it's going to adjust the south elevation as well, because currently when you select these, they say 3D. I don't want that to happen. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to select each of these and unclick or click 3D to make them 2D. And that essentially removes that relationship or that parametric relationship from the other side of the drawing. So now I can pull these into a more comfortable spot. I generally just bring these a little past the building. And then same thing over here. I can uncheck 3D. You have to, unfortunately, you have to do these individually, and that's why I hid the ones that we don't really care about. And now I can adjust these by taking that little blue dot. And for now, I just want to get them close. So that's a little tip. So now if I go to the south elevation, you'll notice that these are still out where they were because I did not affect them from my other elevation. So you'll have to go through each elevation to change those to make sure that they look proper according to the final deliverable. So the next thing that we want to do is adjust the heights of these walls. But before we can do that, we need to do another intermediate step, which is you'll notice that this wall here, while in floor plan it looks like one wall, in elevation it actually has two separate heights. So what we need to do is split this wall into two, and likewise this wall here has two heights. Again, same kind of concept, it needs to be split here. So to do that, I'm going to go into my plan, and this is pretty easy. I just go to my modify toolbar, and then this button right here, split element. You can also just type SL. You select that, and again, I'm not too worried about where this is happening. I'm just getting it in here for now. So I'm doing a split there and a split here. So now in my instance properties diagram in my instructions, you can see, and you can see those splits here. You can see that split here and here and here and here. So I'm going to start with this main mass here. So I'm going to come down and see what those constraints are. So the top constraint is up to level, top of parapet, framing low with a 0 offset. So I can come in to my model. I like to do this in a 3D view. I can select this wall, this wall, this wall, and now this split wall, and I can change my top constraint to top of parapet framing low. You don't ever have to hit apply. Again, little quick tip, just move your cursor away from your properties window. As soon as it's off of the properties window, it'll be applied. Now you can go back and get the remaining heights of these walls correct. I'm not going to do that on screen, but I'll come back when that's done. So I've got these walls to the proper heights now. I'm ignoring this wall because we're gonna just change that once we get the fin wall going. You'll notice that there's other second floor walls here, so I'm going to jump to the second floor to place those walls now and get their heights correct. So architecture wall, we're sticking with the exterior wall for now, and we know that it basically goes here. So I'm going to do this wall right to left because it's going to place the exterior towards the bottom of the screen. And I can even grab that inference. I don't even have this exact location set, and I didn't even look at, again, I did not follow my Revit creation method, which is bad, so I need to check my 3D view, and for now these just went up to the roof level because I didn't check those constraints, but that's fine. I can select this wall now. I know that this one goes up to the parapet framing low. Okay, so I'm going to select this one goes up to parapet framing high. So now the final part of this is if I look at my final deliverable, you'll notice that there's these pieces of wall here that kind of go on the roof. They don't go all the way through the building, so let's make those now. I'm going to go to my roof plan, which I haven't renamed yet. And again, I'm not really worried about where these are. I can always come back later and adjust. So now I want to do architecture, wall, exterior brick on metal stud, finish face exterior. Roof is my base constraint. My base offset in this case is 0 because these are placed right on the roof level, and because these complete this massing, which is already at the top constraint of top of parapet high. Again, if I always think about doing these clockwise, so I start here, grab that inference. If it gets it, it's not really getting it, that's fine. I'm just going to get this in here. And actually, I think this comes back this way, so I kind of screwed that up. Let's undo that. I'm going to go back to my wall command, grab an inference over here. So there's actually, I think there's 3 little sections of wall here. Let me double check my final deliverable. Yes, there's a little section right here. So I've got that in there now. These aren't connected, so I'll just use my TR trim command, trim to corner, click on those 2, and there we go. I can look at my 3D view, and this massing's starting to look pretty good. Now again, I do not have these in place in the exact location. This splits, in a different spot. For that, I can go to my first floor plan, my second floor plan, and dimension them so that I can drive the geometry with those dimensions. Again, I'm not going to do that on screen because you can do that on your own and get these in place. And I'll come back after I've done that. Okay, so I've got those in place now. I've just put just enough dimensions in here to get those in the proper places. I can come back and do the rest of those dimensions later. Up to this point, we've been placing these walls without any regards to their actual building assembly. So I'm going to jump into my instructions. That was just sort of show that you can start, these could have been generic walls for all that really matters. And then we could change these later. And because we place the exterior finish face as the location line, we can change the assembly of this wall. The thickness essentially is going to be changed when we change what goes on inside of this wall, and our design is not going to be impacted. These dimensions that we place are not going to be impacted, and generally we build our buildings to the exterior dimensions. So what I'm going to do now is select a wall, edit type. We always want to edit the structure so that we get this assembly, and essentially what I'm going to do here is just change this so that it looks like my instruction snapshot here. So again, I'm not going to do that on screen. You can do that. It's pretty simple, and I'll come back after that step. Okay, so now that we have all of our exterior walls in place, we're going to start doing the floors and the roofs to sort of start enclosing this volume. So I'm going to go to my first floor plan. I'm going to start at the ground floor, build the floor slab here. So if we look at our instructions, we can see that the ground floor slab, one key thing to note here is that we are going to extend it into the wall core to the exterior face of the stud for now. We may change that later, but that's a good place to start. So our foundation slab is 5-inch concrete cast in place. It's pretty simple. So we are going to go to the structure tab, because this is going to be a structural foundation. So we're going to do slab, and the default's a 6-inch foundation slab. So again, we check our type in our type selector. It's not correct. This one's pretty easy. We just edit it and make it 5 inches. So we edited the assembly. We're also going to rename it here to be 5-inch foundation slab so that matches. It's always important that your name match, if the name calls out a dimension, that it matches what the dimension actually is. So we're going to check our levels. Yes, we want it to be at level first floor with a 0 offset. It is structural. The rest of this we can kind of ignore. Our rebar cover, we're not worried about that. We're not going to use an offset because we are going to use the pick walls command and extend into wall core. So in this case, we want it to extend to the exterior face of the stud. So you can see as I hover, well, before I get to that, so check your options, come up to your draw methods, and we are going to be doing the boundary line, and we want to pick walls, which is the default. When we hover over a wall and we have extended to wall core, it's going to find the core. So if I zoom in, you can see it's either the exterior face of the metal stud or the interior face. So you can see that little 1/2 inch, that's the gypsum. This is just somewhere in the middle of the wall, and this is the rest of the wall assembly. So we want the outside. So we're going to click on the outside face, and we're just going to go around clicking all of these. Now again, I have not actually moved this wall in the right location yet, but that doesn't matter. That's going to, because we're picking the walls and it's assigning these lines to these walls, it's not really going to matter. Now you can see here that because this wall is split and I clicked on this wall, it's created one line, and if I click here, it'll create a second line. I don't want to do that. I want one line to go all the way down here, so I'm going to skip that one. This one's going to be a little weird because we're going to replace this wall later, but that'll be fine. Same thing here. I only want one line, so I'm not going to select that. And now that I have these in here, I need to trim these up, so I'm going to use the TR command, click those 2 lines, click these 2 lines, and now we have a continuous boundary. Hit the green check mark. If this ever comes up, I'm going to say no for now. I can take care of that later if I want to. Check out my 3D view, and I can see now that I have a concrete 5-inch foundation slab, And you can see, because there's no line here where it meets the wall, that it is in fact going into the wall. Now it's overlapping, and that's what that previous warning was, hey, do you want this thing to cut out that? We could have done that. It doesn't really matter, but for now I'm just gonna leave it as is. So here's our second floor properties. You can see a couple extra pieces of information here. We do not want to extend it into the wall. We want to align it with the interior face of the walls. And we're going to look at the final deliverable for exact edge locations for that double height space. It is a floor. It's 3 inches of normal weight concrete on a 2-inch metal deck. So down here in the layers, you can see that we've got a structural metal deck, and it is concrete cast in place gray. And we can see that we have a deck profile, which is form deck composite 2 inches by 6 inches. And the deck usage is the bound layer above. This basically means that even though we have 2 layers, the way that it works is we put in the full thickness of the concrete, and that's how this floor works. So let's jump back into Revit and I'll show you how that works. So second floor plan, structural floor. So right now we've got a generic floor loaded. We're going to go with this 3 inches of lightweight concrete on 2-inch metal deck, because that's the closest thing, right, to what we want. So now we're going to edit type. We're going to duplicate this, call it 3 inches of normal weight concrete on a 2-inch metal deck, and get rid of the 2. Hit OK. Then we are going to edit the structure, and we want to change this concrete lightweight. It's not a big deal, but we should be consistent, and we're going to just change that to concrete cast in place gray. So that's normal weight, that's just normal concrete. The metal deck. Now you can see here that we have a form deck non-composite 2-inch by 6-inch down here, which is grayed out. But if we select the metal deck, it makes these available. So we can see that we don't have any other options. So what do? This deck profile is a family, so we can load that in. So I'm going to hit cancel here, hit cancel again. We're going to insert, load family, and we are going to find a profile. Essentially a 2D sketch of the shape of our deck. And you can see here that we have metal deck. Now ours, what was ours? Ours was form deck composite 2 by 6. So form deck composite. Now that's loaded in. So now when we go to the structure, there's my floor button, floor. Change this back to here. Again, I'll have to redo this. Edit type, duplicate, change that to an N, get rid of the 2, edit the structure. This is all well and good. All we got to do down here is structural deck, and now we can load in, okay, we've got form deck composite 2-inch by 6 inches because we loaded that family. And this seeks out deck profiles, and it's only going to show you those deck profiles. So hit OK. Hit OK again. Now what I'd like to do is, again, I'm going to not extend into the wall core. Actually, let's double check over here. So yes, we want this to be at level 2 with the 0 offset, not extended into the wall core. And we're going to choose our walls. And there's a cutout here, so I'm going to choose this wall, the interior face, obviously, because that's where I want it to go. And this floor actually goes around here. Now if I look at my final deliverable and go to my second floor, I can see that from the inside face of this wall, I've got a 1 foot 5.5 offset there, and then from here I've got 11, 4, and 7, 6. So I got to do a little bit of math there. 6 plus 4 is 10. 7 plus 11 is 18. So 18, 10 from the exterior face here. So I'm going to stop using my pick walls and draw a line. And I'm going to draw a line here. And again, I'm not worried about exactly where it is. I'm going to trim these up. Now here's a little tip I haven't shown before. If I dimension something while inside of the sketch, while I'm creating the boundary, so the boundary sketch, if I create any dimensions here, they do not show up outside of the sketch. So I can use these dimensions to drive the sketch, but they don't show up outside. So 1 foot 5.5, and what I say, 1810. So we can select this, make this 18 feet 10. Select this and make this 1 foot 5.5 inches. I think that's what it was. Let me just double check. 1 foot 5.5. Yep. Hit the green check mark. Again, I'm actually going to say don't show me this again. I'm going to say don't attach. I can handle that on my own later, and there's our second floor slab. Structural slabs always put this marker in here, this span marker. I'm just going to delete it. I don't need it for this drawing. So next I'm going to do the main roof and the mechanical roof. Those are very similar to what I just did here. The steps are pretty much the same. The type properties are in the instructions, so I'm not going to show that on screen. I'm going to do that off screen, and then I'll come back after I've done that. So next I'm going to do the patio floor, which is essentially the same. It's just at a different height, so it's at the top of concrete patio level. And then I'm going to do the upper roof and the mechanical roof slabs. I'm going to do that off screen because, again, it's pretty much the same as I've just showed you with this thing here, with the second floor here. Okay, so I have those slabs in place. You can see that here. I'm just going to point out a couple things real quick. On the second floor plan, this patio, it goes to the inside face of all of these walls. However, it comes off from the face of this back 1 foot. Actually, I think it's the interior face of this wall back 1 foot 6. If you don't get that perfect, we'll fix that later when we create our wall section through this. But it is, again, you can see as I hover over here, it is to the inside face 1 foot 6 here. That's the patio deck. On my roof plan, you can see that we have the mechanical well, which actually uses the floor from the second floor. Same kind of floor here. And then the upper roof actually comes over. It aligns with the interior face of this wall, and then it's offset 1 foot 7 from the exterior face here. Those dimensions are in the final deliverables, so pay close attention to that when you set these. And again, when you go to your 3D view, you can see now that we have our floors and all of our walls in place. Okay, so now that we have those roof slabs in place, we can see them on our 3D view here. You can see that how this roof slab kind of sticks out of this wall and overlaps the mechanical well below. We can also see that these two walls should be meeting the patio, and they don't. There's a little space between, so we can fix that right now. We'll select these two walls, and their base offset should be 0 actually, and it should be top of concrete patio. Move my cursor away, and you can see that that extends down to the patio floor. Now if we go to our roof plan, we can see, compared to the final deliverable, we have a bit of a problem. We cannot see the patio. So that's a view range issue. So we're going to come over here to view range, edit, and what we want to do is change the bottom of this. I'm just going to change this to the level below. Hit apply. The level below, this always has, the view depth has to always be lower or at the level below, so we're at the bottom, so we'll just do, again, level below, hit apply, and now we see that patio. Okay, so I'm going to place the this patio roof, which I haven't done yet. This patio roof goes to the edge of the fin wall, which we haven't created yet. So we can figure that out by looking at our final deliverable and going to the roof, actually going to this, let's see here. First floor plan, we know from the exterior of this wall to the inside face of this fin wall is 29 feet. So that's where our roof is going to go. And then we can go to the roof plan. So 29 feet, we'll try to remember that number. And then we know that it comes out 1 foot 4, and it aligns with this exterior wall. So I'm going to go here to my roof plan and go to, it's going to be it's kind of weird, it's structure floor, and we aren't going, actually we can select this wall. Let's see, I have an offset for some reason. Our instructions say the type is the same as the main roof, so it says 3-inch metal roof deck. The level is the second floor and the height offset is 14.1. So we're going to set this to 14 feet 1 and change our level to be second floor, 3-inch metal roof deck. We're going to check this extend into wall core. We don't want to do that. And we can select these two walls. What do we say? We're going to do a line here. It's going to go out to the face of that, up here, over, and down. And we know that this line, we can use our temporary dimensions, drag that up to there. I can't get the face, so I'm going to tab there. And this was supposed to be 29 feet, I believe. I wasn't quite sure if I aligned this line, so I'm going to use the align command. Yep, see, it was off just a little bit to align those two lines. And then this was 1'4". For some reason, I'm not getting a temporary dimension here. So I'm just going to drop a dimension from here to here. Again, this is inside of a sketch, so it won't show up outside of this sketch. We're going to do 1'4". Hit the green check mark. Oops, I failed to trim these two lines together. And green check mark. Again, we can delete this span label, go to 3D, and there we have that. Okay, so we're going to shift our focus to these fin walls. I'm going to open up a first floor plan here, and I'm going to go to our instructions. So these are those categories of families that are typically used for one-off building elements that we're never going to reuse on any other project, and they're typically pretty unique building elements. So these fin walls totally fit within that category. I'm going to start with this west fin wall because it's the easiest one. And the way that these are created is, well, with the modeled in place component, but they're basically created with the modeling tools that we would use if we were building a family, which we're going to do later in this semester. So I'm going to start here by going to Architecture, Component, but I'm going to click the down arrow and Model in Place. And that's going to bring up this family category and parameters. So when you create an in-place family, you have to define what category it goes into. For the fin walls, it's pretty simple. These are walls. And this basically affects how you can pull the data out of this at a later date, basically how these things are categorized. And essentially they are walls, so we're going to put them in the walls category. So hit OK. I'm going to name this one West Fin Wall. Now what's going to happen is we're going to be dumped into this ribbon that is very similar to the family editor. So if we were creating our own family, this is what we would see. I'm not going to go too deep in depth here on all these tools because these are so simple. We're going to use the most simple form, which is an extrusion. So I'm going to click extrusion and I'm going to check my properties here. The extrusion start and end 1 foot, I'm going to leave that alone for now, and that's basically the same up here in the options bar. And I'm going to draw these with the line tool, and essentially I'm going to click on the edge of this wall. Again, I can move this later, so I'm just going to click there. I'm going to look at my final deliverable, and I'm going to see that this thing is 2 feet deep, 1'4" wide, and 3 5/8 thick, and it's essentially a brick cavity. So let's go 2 feet over, 1'4" down, and I'm going to come back here. Now what I can do now is I can go back to the line tool. I can make my offset 3 5/8, which is the thickness of a brick. Let's go back there. My offset is 3 5/8 of an inch. And that way what I can do is I can literally trace this again, and it's going to create that offset. And once I do that, I can hit escape, go back into my line tool. I don't want an offset this time, and I can simply fill in this boundary. Kind of like a floor or a roof, I'm creating a boundary that's going to get extruded. So I need a complete loop here. The extrusion end and start, you can see that my work plane is at level first floor. So the extrusion start is at 0 inches from the first floor. We should turn this into -8, which is exactly the same as all of our other walls. And the end, I'm going to leave 1 foot for now. I'm going to hit the green check mark. Actually, before I do that, I'm going to come down here to the material, and I'm going to click on that for this particular extrusion, and we want that to be brick. So I'm going to type brick in the search box, and we're just going to use brick common. We're going to edit this appearance later. Hit OK. Hit the green check mark to finish the create extrusion. Now that is 1 extrusion of my family. I'm still in place family editor. So to get out of this, I have to hit this check mark, and now I'm done. Now I can go to a 3D view. I can come around to this side, and I can see that my extrusion goes down 8 inches so that it's at the bottom of my walls, and it goes up 1 foot from 0, and that's as high as it goes right now. So this is my west elevation. So I'm going to open my west elevation so I can see that in elevation. What you can actually do with these extrusions, or these these extrusions, these in-place models, is if you select it, you'll see all these little handles. I can literally pull this up, because I want this to come all the way up to the roof. Now I'm going to go to the roof plan, and I can see that here. So back at my final deliverable, I'm looking at this this orthographic, and I can see that these fin walls, they all engage the roof in some manner. This one is pretty basic, but you can see that this is just another rectangular form extruded from the level of the roof. Right now it's kind of colliding with the parapet wall. We'll fix that in a later assignment. So back in my final deliverable, I'm going to come to my roof plan. I'm going to select this in-place family. Now I want to add to this family. I don't want to create another family. I want all of this fin to be all one element. So what I'm going to do is click edit in place. I'm not going to actually edit this extrusion. I'm going to create a new extrusion. So I'm going to go to the create menu, extrusion. Now this, because again I'm on the roof plane, it's going to assume that my work plane is the roof plane, and in fact it is. And I want my start to be 0. For some reason 510 came in, that's fine, I'll leave that alone. Again, I always like to adjust those after the fact anyway. The material is brick common, that's correct. We are going to use our rectangle tool to essentially trace this shape that we have there already. Now for some reason it doesn't seem to be inferencing the edge once I get off of it, so there we go, I finally got it. So once I click that, you'll notice that there's some lock icons. That's because these lines are, it's basically asking me, do you want this line to be locked to that edge that I aligned it with below? Meaning, do you want to create a parametric relationship or a connection? And generally I do, because this is always going, this extrusion that's on top of this other extrusion is always going to be the same size, whether I want to change its thickness later. Now if I was designing this, that would be an advantage, because I could just change one and the rest would follow. So I'm going to lock that one and lock this one. For some reason it didn't lock this bottom. I'm going to zoom in and see why not. It does seem to be aligned to the edge. Now if those locks don't come up, I can always use the align tool, so that's AL, and I can click on the lower edge. Notice that the blue highlight was only for that lower portion, and now the blue highlight is this upper line. So I'm going to click that, and now I can get the lock icon and I can lock those together. The end of this extrusion, I believe, is 8 feet. Check your final deliverable. I'm doing this from memory. 8 feet from the front face of the wall. So I can drop a dimension in. Again, that is only going to exist in the sketch. In fact, I don't even need that, because if you look at this, I can select this line and it gives me a series of temporary dimensions. I can just drag this one over. Now I'm tabbing into that, and then 8 feet. So there's my outline. Now it's still a cavity wall, so what I'm going to do is click on the rectangle tool again, only this time I'm going to put in an offset of 3 5/8 inches again for the thickness of the brick. And I'm simply going to trace the same box that I just created, and it's going to automatically create that offset. So I'm going to click there. Now you can notice that the offset's going to the wrong side. So what you want to do is press the space bar, or the flip button, and it'll flip it to the opposite side. So I only have to click these 2 points. Now I could lock these together, but because I created that offset of 3 5/8, that offset should be maintained no matter where I move these lines. So I'm not going to bother with that. So I'm going to hit the green check mark, go to a 3D view, and there is my family. Now, to turn that section box off, I exited the in-place family, and you can see that these are still seen as 2 separate entities when I don't really want them to be. So what I'm going to do is select it, edit in place, and anytime you want to join any 3D geometry together, it doesn't even have to be within the same family. You can use this join tool up here. So join these 2 pieces together, and now they're seen by Revit as one mass. So I can hit the finish in place model button, and there's my first fin wall. I'm going to model the tall south fin wall, sort of the largest fin wall next, and that's the last thing I'm going to do. I'm going to let you figure out how to do the last fin wall on your own. Now that I'm going to walk you through 2 of these, you should be able to do the third one on your own. So let's go back to the first floor plan. Oh, one thing I forgot to do, and let me just do that real quick. Don't forget to stop or don't forget to drop some dimensions to place that fin wall in the proper place. So I'm going to come down here now, go to my instructions. So this is the south fin wall. So this one has quite a few layers. And if I go to my final deliverable and go to my roof plan, oops, one more, you can see that the instructions give me the details for these dimensions, and then the depths of these 2 are out here. Also, if I go to an elevation, I can see that these side pieces, these shoulders, if you will, don't go all the way up. So this piece here, if I go to, you can see that maybe the other here, this is going to be a better view. You can see that what I'm going to do is I'm going to create one extrusion, just like I did for this one, that gets me up to the roof level. Then I'm going to create a second extrusion to do this middle portion, and then I'm going to do another extrusion to do both sides, these shoulders. And they're all going to, again, belong to one in-place family. So let's go back to the instructions. So this thing, just trying to remember some of these dimensions as I look at it. Again, look at your instructions. Some of this stuff I do by memory. So architecture. So I am going to start a new in-place family. So component, model in place. Again, I'm going to select wall, hit OK. I'm going to call this the south fin wall, and create an extrusion. Start again is going to be -8. I'll leave this 510. I'm just going to change that later. Again, it's remembering my material. I'm using the draw tool, no offset right now. So, and I've already forgotten my dimensions, 1, 4, and 2, 8. So 1'4", I believe that's 8 inches of full brick. 2'8". This is the 1'4", and then it's all symmetrical. So now I'm going to do this the same way I did before, where I'm going to go back to the line tool, but put in an offset of 3 5/8, a brick thickness, and then simply trace these lines, and it trims itself up with a nice offset. I have to go hit escape, go back to the line tool, make sure my offset's 0, and fill in this to make a continuous boundary. Hit the green check mark, go to a 3D view, orbit around. Now I can see that on my south elevation, so I can open up my south elevation, select this extrusion, pull it up to the roof. Go to another 3D view. Now again, I can go to my roof plan, just like I did before. I haven't exited the in-place editor, so I'm still editing this family. So again, I'm going to create a new extrusion. I'm going to use the rectangle tool. Now it's given me this line and this line to lock. For some reason it's not giving me all three here, so I'm going to lock or align and then lock that to that. I have to check out my my roof plan, so I got to go back to see that from the face to the back of this is 11.4 plus 3 feet, so that's 14'4" from the face. So I can simply select this, drag and tab because it couldn't find that. What did I say, 11'4"? Again, check your final deliverable. Sometimes I don't do my math right. So I'm going to do another box, another rectangle, now again with the 3 5/8 inch offset, and simply trace. Hit the space bar to flip it inside, trace to there. Oops, I seem to have not gone to the right point, so again I'll use my align tool. Sure, I'll lock that. I don't think I really need to lock that, but that's fine. Now the extrusion start is -8. I want that to be 0. Again, 510, that's fine for now. 3D. So you can see how that works. Now that's going to be much taller than that. In fact, I don't even think I checked the height of this. So check the height in your elevations. I may have forgotten it initially, so you might have to count bricks. We know how tall a brick is, and 3 bricks equals 8 inches, so I'm going to go 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3, 19. So there's 19 times 8, 152 inches. So I can come back in here, select this thing, and say 152 inches, which ends up being 12'8". So that's the height of that. Again, we can join that mass to this mass, and now we can go back to the roof plan, and we're going to create these side pieces. So those, again, I'm going to create a new extrusion, and I'm going to trace this line up. Again, I don't know the distance, I'll fix that later. I'll go back 3 5/8 inch, and then I can do the same thing. Well, here I'll do the line here. I'll do my 3 5/8 of an inch, and then I will simply do my offset. These sketch tools, you can do a lot of this, any way that you want. Now again, this is on the wrong side, so I hit the space bar and it flips it, and I'm just going to trace these, and there we go. There's my shape. Now here's another handy thing I can do while I'm in a sketch mode. I can select all these lines, and I can mirror with pick axis. I might draw the axis. Use that. Find the center point of this mass and draw a vertical line, and it copies that sketch over. So now I have those. Again, 0, 5, 10. I'll go with that for now, and hit the green check mark. Go to my 3D view. There's my shoulders. Now I can, here I'll go back and count bricks again. So I'm just going to do, it's 2 bricks above 64. I don't like doing math, so I'm just going to type 64 to get it to there, and then go to a south elevation and pull it up 2 more bricks. So it's close to there, and we will align. I didn't get it perfect, so I'll just align that down. Check it out in my 3D view. Now I forgot to join these two, so I'm going to go back in, edit in place, join those two together, and there's my big fin wall, my south fin wall. Hit finish model. As I mentioned, I'm not going to show you how to do this fin wall. I think you should be able to figure that out on your own. The rest is essentially placing the correct dimensions, getting these on sheets, making sure all of your text turn it to PDF. I'm not going to go over any of that in this video either. So thanks for watching.